Hi there, my name's James Kelly, and welcome back to Scott Goes Pop, or should I say Palestine Goes Pop, because that is what it has been rechristened by our friend Stu in his latest blog post rant on Wings Over Scotland. Well, all I can say, Stuart, is if that is supposed to be some sort of wounding insult, it hasn't exactly had the desired effect, because I am more than content to be associated with the cause of the people of Palestine, which at this particular moment is the cause of the whole of humanity. However, that's not what I'm going to talk about in this video. I want to return instead to the Norstat poll from the weekend, Norstat poll on independence, which had the yes vote in the lead by 53% to 47%. And I said in the previous video that this extraordinary strong yes lead may have been achieved in spite of the fact that Norstat still weights by recalled vote from the 2014 independence referendum. And the data tables came out yesterday and they confirm that the results were weighted by, uh, among other things, the 2014 independence referendum result. So that means the yes vote has been achieved in spite of, well, against considerable odds. How steep were those odds? Well, it's possible to look at the unweighted numbers in the data tables. If I can scroll down and find the appropriate table. Yeah, here's the one with don't know stripped out. Yes are on 53%, no are on 47%. However, if you look at the unweighted results, 478 respondents say they would vote yes in a new independence referendum, and 304 respondents say they would vote no. And that has been weighted in such a way that the yes respondents go down to 410 and the no respondents go up to 362, which is a very big revision. And if you pump that into a calculator, you find that it means that 61% of the respondents unweighted would vote yes, and only 39% would vote no. Now, don't run away with the idea that this means that if you took away weighting by 2014 recalled vote, that you would definitely get 61% yes, 39% no, because those unweighted results would still be subject to the normal demographic weightings, to bring the age groups into line with the profile of the overall population. So that may well have brought the yes vote down anyway, but I'd be willing to bet it wouldn't have brought it down anything like the distance from 61% to 53%. And remember, there are two reputable pollsters out there, including Ipsos, who are regarded as the UK's gold standard pollster, who explicitly say that it's a mistake to weight by 2014 recalled vote because of the danger of false recall. And that is a very real danger because, well, if you think about it, in 2014, yes lost the vote, but they won the campaign. When people think back to that period, what they remember most of all is the extraordinary surge towards yes, the positivity of the yes campaign and how the yes campaign were winning the arguments. And so if you can't recall how you voted, if you're not entirely sure, it's easy to just sort of come down on the path of thinking, well, I must have voted yes. Or you might actually regret voting no when you don't actually want to admit that you voted no. So you say you recall voting yes, and then you're wrongly, when you say that you would now vote yes, you're wrongly weighted down as a result of that. So this is a very real danger, and it could well be that by weighting by recall vote, Norstat are going wrong and other pollsters are going wrong, and that if you simply remove that mistake, as Ipsos put it, you would have a really enormous yes lead with Norstat, and that pollsters that are showing no majorities would actually be showing yes majorities, and it could well be that we've had a clear yes majority for years, and that's sort of been concealed by us. Is that a deception? Well, it's kind of a deception, but not necessarily a conscious deception. Remember that opinion pollsters are human; they have their own prejudices. It's like think back to the independence referendum campaign when there was the notorious Kellner correction that YouGov applied. This came about because Peter Kellner would look at the results that YouGov were getting, sort of their internal results, and he just refused to accept it could be real because the no vote was too low or the no lead was too low. And so we kind of worked backwards to think, well, where are we going wrong? And so he came up with this weird methodology, split the uh, SNP voters in the sample into two distinct sections, weighted them separately. He didn't do this for any other party. This produced a higher no majority. And so, that's what we were doing wrong, and now we've got it right. I mean, it's almost laughable if you think about it. And in a more subtle way, this could be going on now, and pollsters could be sticking to a methodology that is distorting the results in favor of no, and they don't realize that they're going astray. They just think, oh, that result looks plausible, therefore it must be right. But maybe it's not right, and maybe yes are actually in a very clear lead at the moment. The other thing I want to mention, which I didn't mention in my previous video about the Norstat poll, possibly because this wasn't mentioned in the Sunday Times write-up. If it was mentioned, it certainly wasn't very prominent, is that there's another poor result for the Alba Party. They are on 4% of the list vote, which is below the level at which they would win any seats at all. And you might think, well, 4% is not too bad, but this is Norstat, and if Norstat with the one pollster under their previous guise as panel base, which overestimated Alba massively in the 2021 Hollywood election. They showed Alba as high as 5 or 6% repeatedly. And of course, in the actual result, Alba were roughly 1.5%. So, they were overestimating Alba by a factor of almost 4 at times. And if they're continuing to do that, then on 4%, Alba could actually end up with a worse result than in 2021. This time around, they could end up with, say, maybe 1%. Unless, of course, Norstat have corrected their methodology to correct that systemic overestimation of the Alba vote. But there's no sign whatsoever that they've done that, because they don't weight by 2021 recalled vote. And so there's no particular reason why that error would have been corrected. So the chances are they are continuing to overestimate Alba massively, and Alba are heading for an absolutely terrible result. They certainly aren't going to win any seats. And that means, of course, that every vote for Alba on the list is going to be a completely wasted vote. So what I would say about that is, if you're thinking of voting Alba, make sure you're doing it for the right reason. For heaven's sake, don't vote for Alba because you think it's some sort of tactical vote that is going to produce a greater number of pro-independent seats, because it is actually not going to produce any pro-independent seats whatsoever. It's going to produce 0 seats. You're effectively abstaining on the list vote in terms of who wins seats, and that is obviously going to help unionist parties. So please ignore the really deceptive rhetoric we're getting from an increasingly desperate Alba Party. People like Christina Hendry are pumping out these videos saying, oh, you've got to vote tactically for Alba on the list, because if you don't do that, you're helping the unionists. In fact, the complete opposite is true. So please don't be hoodwinked by these people. Anyway, that's it for now. If you're enjoying this content, if you're finding it useful, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you later.